third game of a 3-game homestand for the NC State men's basketball team. It's yet again time to answer the bell.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Happy Wednesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, NC State hosts Pitt tonight in the third game of a 3-game homestand. Yet another game that NC State absolutely has to have.
Like you talked about, we're at that point in the season where you cannot afford to drop anymore if the tournament is where you're looking to go, if that's what you're hoping to get here. And I'll tell you, this team is like it's like a state fair ride, you know. You know it's not good for you. You know getting your hopes up is going to be dangerous. And yet and still, you're going to take all the bumps and curves. The only difference is you're not doing it for the sake of some very gorgeous young woman that you're like, I'm going to impress her by not being terrified of this thing that was put together 24 hours ago. The reality is this team has to find this level and stay there. This team has to get consistent. This team has to hit that moment where it's like, hey, this is who we are. We can do these things. And I think that we kind of have found out who this team is. This is a team that will beat bad or mediocre teams, but they're always going to struggle against good teams. And Pitt is at that kind of line where you say, they've shown us some really good things, but I don't think they're a really good team overall. So this should be a game that State can come away with.
The unfortunate calling card of NC State basketball recently is that they beat the teams that they perceive should beat, and they lose to the games that you perceive maybe they should lose to. Pittsburgh is a team that NC State should, quote unquote, beat. Their resume is actually weirdly similar to ours. They also beat some of the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they lose to some of the teams that they're perceived supposed to lose to. So for NC State, this game is about NC State. You have to understand the position you're currently in, understand where you're at in this schedule. A little bit of reiteration, but we talked about the struggles of that 3-game losing streak, and then you get to come home and you have a chance to get right with 3 at home. This is the third of those 3. You took care of business in the first 2. No time to let up now. This is a game, if you want to be serious about where you may or may not fall when March rolls around, point blank, this is a game you have to have. If you don't, it's a little bit of a disaster. So there's business to be stood on, and NC State's got to find a way to get on top.
No doubt about it. The reality of this game, simple. We don't have to play around. We don't have to muck around and mess around. Can NC State do what it's supposed to do here? Which Pitt team will we get? Because Pitt beat Duke. That's the biggest difference between the resumes right now. Pitt has dropped some games that are absolute head scratchers. Did you look at it and you say, wait a minute, what? A team that beat a top 10 team can't be the same team that lost this game, and yet they are. They find ways to be frustrating and be confusing and all those good things. NC State beats the teams they're supposed to beat, but the problem is the teams that matter, the teams that are going to be tournament bound and all that, you can't really find a way to buy a win against any of them. I'd probably say Virginia, UVA is the only team that I'd say, hey, they look like they're going to be in the conference. They're trending in a direction where they're going to be in the tournament, and yet we got to win against them. That's it. Other than that, I mean, time and time again, when we have those opportunities to beat a very good team, to beat a team that's going to matter, that's going to bolster that resume, not really. But when it comes to beating those teams that a 5-pack of wins helps you out a little bit, we can get it done.
Talking about those resumes, Pittsburgh is 14-8 overall. They're 5-6 in ACC play, currently tied for 8th place in the ACC. So they are, I mean, the literal definition of mediocre. I think they've been swept by Syracuse They lost both of their early non-conference games against SEC teams. So again, their resume is a bit similar to ours, but the one that stands out is that road win that they have at Duke. And Pittsburgh, they've won 3 out of their last 4. They would love nothing more than to add NC State to their win column.
Yeah, that is a team that is trending in the right direction, right? We talked about, talking about that Duke win and all that, that kind of gave that team the confidence to get on this roll, to be headed towards a place where they feel good about themselves. They feel good about what's rolling there. And the most dangerous thing for an athlete to get, I say this all the time, it's just a little bit of confidence. Most dangerous thing for an athlete to lose is that little bit of confidence, because when that goes out the door, my brother, I'm telling you, everything follows it. And when I say everything, I mean everything follows shortly after.
I talked about the resumes being kind of eerily similar. Well, so are the numbers. Listen to this. In terms of points per game, Pittsburgh 75.6, NC State 75.7. Points against, Pittsburgh gives up 66.8, NC State gives up 70.2. Shooting percentage, Pittsburgh shoots 43.2, NC State shoots 43.7. Rebounding, Pittsburgh 38.5, NC State 36.1. Assists, Pittsburgh 13.8, NC State 13.3. And then three-point shooting, Pittsburgh 34, NC State 33. You get the gist. The numbers are very, very close to each other. They play similar styles of ball. And so like I've already mentioned here, this game's about NC State. Find your way to win this game, whether it is the smaller 4-guard line that gives you the ability to be quicker, more athletic. You got to roll it out. We talked about it yesterday. It's only weird if it doesn't work. I guess an analogy to football season, they threw out the things that weren't effective and they kept the things that are. The same kind of deal is here for NC State basketball.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the doctor and you say, hey, my elbow feels funny every time I do like this. And then your doctor's like, stop doing like that. That's literally what we're seeing here from this team. We're seeing lineups that basically emphasize what has been best, what's been most productive. Despite, hey, fan favorite be damned, experience be damned. It's not about that. It's about what puts us in the best position to win, what puts us in a position of most productivity. And that's what this 4-guard lineup is doing. So rock with it. Ride the wave. Surf the wave all the way to the golden shores of a win.
And speaking of ways to win this game, up next we have Kenton's keys to Pittsburgh after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is Gametime. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all Gametime users can get $100 off when they purchase a big game ticket using code VEGAS100. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. So if you find yourself in Vegas for the big game coming up on Sunday, you have got to get over and use Gametime. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. Their all-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You can buy your tickets in just seconds with a number of taps, and they have deals right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Gametime is the place to find last-minute ticket deals. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users, like I mentioned, get $100 off of a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. Terms apply. And again, download the Gametime app and use code VEGAS100, VEGAS 100 for $100 off of a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKED ON for $20 off of your first purchase. You can put this, of course, toward NC State basketball tickets. NC State baseball is right around the corner. You might want to see the boys over on the dime. But for all of this, you have got to download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Middle portion of our Wednesday show. It's now time to get into Kenton's keys for tonight against Pitt.
The first key is to press those boys like a panini. For those of you who don't know, a panini is a sandwich. Never mind, just Google it. But the important part is to apply pressure on the ball. Both Henson and Carrington have shown that they will get loose and careless with it, or they'll have those lapses in concentration if you make them dribble the ball all the way up court. If you make them be locked in for extended periods of time taking care of the ball, it's not going to happen. And if it does happen for Pitt, congratulations, NC State would not win this game. But turning those two over is critical to State getting a win here, because at the end of the day, I'm talking about their leading scorer and their lead guard in terms of ball handling responsibilities. If you can make those two rattle and uncomfortable, congratulations, friends. You've just removed the bananas from banana pudding. Like that's what you've just done there.
A lot of times less is more. You talk about the simplicity in game planning. The last two games that NC State has won, they have won the turnover margin both times. It's no secret that you have to play clean basketball to consecutively win games in the ACC. No different here on Wednesday night. Win the turnover margin, and you give yourself a great shot.
The second one, rebound as a team. With the 4-guard lineups, it's not about necessarily having 2 or 3 guys have just these epic, crazy performances on the glass. That's not what this is about. It's about everybody as a team coming together and saying, all right, we're going to go ahead and roll this thing. We're going to go ahead and as a unit, we'll take care of each other by all of us attacking the glass in the way that it needs to be attacked so that we're preventing easy second chance points. One thing about Pitt, they got some length up front. They got some guys, some 7-footers. Federico is I want to say 6'11" or so. They've got a 7-footer over there. His name is slipping my mind right now, but he's their starting center. They've got length. If you allow that length to absolutely dominate this game, good night down the road for a long flight, Wolfpack fans. But if we can, as a team, be committed and dedicated to hitting the glass, we got a shot.
We talked a lot recently about this 4-guard lineup, and Kenton just did as well. If you're going to do that, you're going to need to get more aggressive on the boards because you are small. That takes guys crashing the boards as a unit. You can't afford to just see where the ball goes and then aggressively get after it. It takes everything when you're giving up that much size on the inside. Aggressively box out, aggressively close off guys to get the boards, whatever it takes. I mean, Michael O'Connell, I thought he did an excellent job of rebounding recently against Georgia Tech. You're going to need that kind of effort from all 5 guys on the court. It doesn't matter if DJ Burns is or is not in there, or Mo Diarra is or is not in there. All the guards have to get involved on this front as well.
Couldn't agree more. Truly couldn't agree more. That was excellently said. At the end of the day, like you said, it's not about just the big who's in. It's about everybody coming together to do this thing because it's going to take everybody. And with that being said, the tangible number is keep the rebounding battle within 5 or win it outright. The second to last one, rather, we're channeling a little bit of Robert and I here. Bigs be relevant when your number is called. Between Diarra, between Middlebrooks, between Burns, we need to see at least 2 out of the 3 have a positive plus minus. Why am I saying that? DJ Burns has shown to be better in a reduced and limited role as instant offense this season than as the starter. With that being said, even while you're instant offense, you still have to do productive things in other areas of the game in order to work this thing out. And with that being said, Diarra and Middlebrooks, you are both of those two. Find ways to be relevant when your number is called. Find ways to do the right things. And I swear on everything I love, Ben Middlebrooks, if I see more 3-point shooting and fadeaways in the lane, my brother in Christ, you are not Dirk Nowitzki. That's not you. You are not that guy, pal. And there's nothing wrong with that. But know yourself, know your worth, know where you do add in and make those plays. Do your best Michael O'Connell impression, not with the ball handling and whatnot, but just knowing who you are and staying within your lane. For those of you who have ever seen the famous movie Hitch with Kevin James and Will Smith, when he's teaching them how to dance, and he said, you stay in your lane, stay in your bubble. That's my advice to him. Mo Diarra, I'd probably say the same thing. I know he likes to get a little trigger happy from the perimeter as well, but he's a big physical guy with some light feet, that just phenomenal footwork when he wants to in the post. Get near the basket. Your shot, your shooting percentages will increase if your shot chart looks like a bunch of grapes right next to each other, as opposed to a scatter plot where it's one way out here, then one way over here, then another way down here. Make it grapes at the rim, and it'll be the sweetest taste you've ever known. And last but not least, the corner 3. We have shown that the numbers show NC State is one of the most efficient team in all the land in terms of corner 3s. we need to continue that streak. We need to continue it, but also take more. Take more. Continue the recent uptick in three-point efficiency. We want to see at least 33 to 34% shooting from deep. That's the minimum that we're shooting for here. But go to the spots where you're hot. That's all there is to it.
The stat graphic that came out last week that NC State leads the nation in three-point efficiency from corner three shooting is still very hilarious. As much as we struggled on the perimeter for a lot of this season, and a lot of times you couldn't buy a bucket from deep in crucial parts of the game, it turns out all we really needed to do was post up in the corner, which obviously it's not quite that simple, but to see NC State leading the country in that category is hilarious, but also it's true. And what does that mean? Use that to your advantage. Talked about the four-guard lineup, giving us the ability to be a bit more athletic and opens up a lot cleaner looks. That, in part, can play right into this key. Yeah. If you move the ball enough with O'Connell, with Horn, with Morcell, whoever it is, and your guards are quick enough to create open looks for themselves, that's how you're going to get 3 threes possibly from Jaden Taylor, because he's been shooting it better of recently. You got to keep DJ Horn hot. He shot 50% in this last game. Still waiting for more consistency from Casey Morcell, but if you give him enough looks out of the corner, he's going to bury probably the majority of them. The three-point shooting is going to be imperative in this game. Obviously, with the smaller four-guard lineup, you're going to need extremely strong guard play. You've gotten that the last 2 games. It's resulted in 2 wins. Again, play the hits. If it's worked in the last 2 games, if you won both those games, you have no reason not to run it back here a third time. Make Pitt run, make Pitt defend you. If all that happens, I like NC State's chances.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The reality is that three-point shot, to me, if you're an offense that's struggling and you are one of the most efficient teams in the game at one of the most efficient shots in the game, to not take more of that shot is damn near coaching malpractice. Let's just be very honest here. Like you said, the corner three going to be vitally important to this thing. Not too much else to say there.
And so wrapping up this little portion with Kenton's keys here, we're also going to give our score prediction. Kenton, I'll let you go first. How do you see this one shaping out in PNC Arena?
Yeah, so when I look at this game, I see, I believe Pitt is quad 2 or 3. I'm fairly certain that with that in mind, NC State gets the job done in games like this. The Pack come out on top. I'm going to say 77-64. I know the Pitt's been hot lately, but I just feel like they're due for that letdown game where you're just like, Capel, what are you doing? And I think that happens in PNC tonight.
So actually, as it stands right now, Pittsburgh is a quad 2 opportunity. So even better, sweetens the deal a little bit for the Wolfpack on Wednesday. A lot of the numbers for these teams are very similar. The resumes are very similar. So for NC State, this game is all about NC State. Do what it takes for you to win this game. Understand the position that you are in, sitting currently 4th in the ACC. The opportunity is sitting here to be 8-4 with just 8 games left in that ACC schedule. If you want any chance at bettering your current position, this game has to be won. No excuses, no other way to put it, no sugarcoating. This is what it is. This is the deal. The little bit of progress that you've built up over the last week, it can be erased with a bad loss in this one. Have to have it.
Don't be the team that takes a couple steps forward and then a massive leap, fall, and tumble back, because all the King's horses and all the King's men couldn't put our tournament hopes back together again if we find ourselves on the wrong end of some of these games coming down the stretch. And again, like Grace and I have already talked about, the tournament hopes are already hanging on by a thread. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the reality. That's just the reality. This is a team that they've shown they can fight. They've shown they can battle and all that good stuff. You cannot keep your tournament hopes on life support. You cannot think that it's a good thing. To be hanging on a string in terms of your tournament hopes and the hopes of Keats keeping his job and all that good stuff. It's not a great idea. It really and truly is not, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Grayson and I, both appreciators of great music. We both love the Loose End song, Hanging on a String. What a time the 80s was. But now's not the time.
Trying to understand the net is a bit of a headache in itself, and Sure, you might get some help from UVA if they develop into a quad one win, or maybe you might even get some help from Wake Forest as they're nearing that line as well. But none of that matters if you lose this game. Despite whether you move up and down, sometimes even in a loss, the only thing that matters is adding another tally to the win column. You're 2-0 in your last 2. Now let's make it 3-0 in your last 3. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Wednesday episode with some love to Baby T. He's finally made it up to the NBA, and he's slowly starting to make a name for himself. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl week to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and then placing some Super Bowl bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a win or 2 or 3, even if your team is not playing in the big game. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58 between the Niners and Chiefs, but FanDuel also has bets for anytime touchdown scores, over-unders in receptions, rushing yards, receiving yards, total point, you name it, they got it, and so much more. New customers can join today and get $200 back in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Last couple minutes here of our Wednesday show. My apologies. Actually, just realized I never gave my score prediction for tonight's game against Pittsburgh, but I have NC State in a must-win game. They're going to win this one 74-69. Close margin, but they escape with the win. Now actually getting into the last portion of our Wednesday show. Wanted to give some love to Quavon Smith. Now he's up in the league, the NBA, with the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's beginning to slowly turn some heads. Not exactly generating significant minutes on a night-by-night basis. No surprise there, as he's just now breaking into the league. But every now and then, you're going to see these games where he might play 9 minutes, but in those 9 minutes, he might put up 17 points on the Brooklyn Nets on 5 of 6 shooting from deep. I remember our episode actually back around the time of the NBA draft, and while we said that he was going to get drafted, he ended up not getting drafted, but shortly signed thereafter, that the representation through Quavon Smith of NC State in the league was super important, and that you might see Quavon quickly develop as a microwave scorer in the NBA. As we stand now here in February, both of those takes are starting to age pretty well.
Oh my God, Quavon Smith can score at a high level? Color me shocked, color me surprised, flabbergasted, taken aback, if you will, because Quavon Smith, of all people, is now scoring the bet. Come on, that's what this young man was born to do. He was literally put on this earth to put, he says, ball, meet basket, meet net, tickle twine. That is who he is. That is what he does. Seeing him do it for the 76ers, the young man deserves all the love, plus some for Wolfpack Nation and 76ers. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. It's tough being a Pistons fan right now, and that Orlando Magic theme song be hitting. But with that in mind, you got to root for the Sixers and Quavon Smith, knowing that this young man is carrying representation for the Wolfpack, especially out of the newer guys, especially for the Kevin Keats guys in the NBA.
Super important. It goes a lot further than some folks may realize, because NC State, outside of, most recently TJ Warren and Dennis Smith, we don't really have much to hang our hat on that have made it to the league. And so Baby T now rising up to start playing in the league, it is a big deal. And this take might come across kind of crazy, but I almost feel like his game is better suited for the NBA than it was college basketball, because if he can come in and just jack up threes and hit them at a pretty decently high rate, he's going to be very effective in short pockets. Want guys to come off the bench, give you maybe 10 to 12 points, and that might be all you get from them, but it's effective when they're out there. So very proud of Baby T so far. Of course, we're hoping for a lengthy career ahead of him, but it is exciting to get another Wolfpacker up in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, technically speaking, the Martin twins never played for a team not named the Wolfpack.
Fair.
So, just want to let y'all in on that one. But no, you're right. There isn't a ton of representation in the NBA for this team. And so, you know, Quavon carrying that torch after you and I both said he's going to carry that torch. You know, Grayson and I like the victory lap. We are, in fact, victory lappers. And we are not fully victory lapping yet, but it does look like Jaquavion Smith's going to put us in that winner's circle with the checker flag pretty soon here.
That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. As always, be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, give us your score predictions for tonight's basketball game against Pittsburgh. Let us know what you think about the matchups coming into this game. Anything you got on your mind, get it down in that comment box. Tell us what you think about Baby T getting up in the league. We've already had a couple comments of folks wanting us to talk about it, so let us know what you think. And as always, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. Appreciate all of the support. We will see you all tomorrow. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.